I got some for all of us.
Things to do. Ready to go? Tell me when you start rolling. Good to go? Well, good afternoon, folks. Good afternoon. Well, welcome to Moss Creek, and thank you all for coming today. This is our 2024 Hurricane Preparedness meeting. And I'd like to welcome Major Adam Zasmar of Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, and he is part of the Emergency Management Division. He'll be giving a short presentation, and then we'll open it up to any questions you have. Happy to answer any questions from a county standpoint and from a community standpoint. I'm just going to go over a few things that we do here as a community to start with, and Major, jump in at any time. We apply every year for what's called re-entry cards. They're here in an envelope here. Security, any SLED certified security officers, which is what we are, have a re-entry pass to come into the county. Now, when the governor declares an evacuation, declares an emergency, and asks this particular area to evacuate, for anyone to come back into the county, they have to have a re-entry card or be law enforcement, obviously. Security officers are considered law enforcement within this community. So any SLED certified security officers, and there's 15 of us in our department, are certified to come back to the county to protect this community only, but this community. So after security is allowed to come back in, which is right from the beginning, can stay or come back in initially, there's a tier system after that. And we have applied for, and we need permission from emergency management for different aspects of the community to be covered. So we have, for instance, heavy equipment that is brought in, that is staged in Moss Creek, actually in our orchard area, which is the safest area to start into the community if we do need to remove a lot of debris. That heavy equipment is contracted ahead of time. It's Cleveland, and they bring in the big old bulldozers and things of that nature, and they're staged in case we need to clear the roadways. To start with, once we hear that there is a possible hurricane approaching the area, we as a management team get together, sit down and open up our prepared evacuation process, and it's very intricate. We start with how we're going to communicate. Susanna Johnston has been doing this for years. We've been doing this for years. She communicates with the community via email. So two things I would definitely recommend: that you're on the email list, that you're getting all the communications from Moss Creek. You want to get your source of information about this community from that email or from the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. You don't want to be out there on social media, hey, look at this picture over on Victoria. It looks fantastic. What's the problem? You definitely want to do it from a reliable source. We also, prepared-wise, we work as a security chief as part of the organization that I belong to. We communicate with the Emergency Management Department and the Bluffton Fire District. The reason we do that is we actually give them numbers of what we know, at least relatively speaking, how many members are staying in the community. So one of the things we do ask you is, are you staying or are you leaving?
How do you ask that?
They do it via email communication. Again, fantastic setup. We've done this before, unfortunately. We've gone through these steps in the past, so we've learned from those and say, okay, we used to do it like basically a paper trail of it. Now, what we do is we ask you, are you staying or going?
And that's only if it's a mandatory evacuation by the governor.
Yeah, absolutely.
The governor is the only person
in the state of South Carolina that can order a mandatory evacuation. I know the sergeant's going to get into that, but you know, it's not just every willy-nilly hurricane. It has to be Beaufort County mandatory evacuation.
Absolutely. And that way we again, if it's a mandatory evacuation, we strongly suggest, and I'm sure Major will back that, we strongly suggest that you leave the area, only because we can't provide 911 services to you. We did it with Matthew. It was very, very difficult for people to travel through the community. There was areas that you wouldn't know a hurricane was here, and then there was areas where you couldn't move 5 feet. So if it is ordered by the governor, as Susanna said, we do recommend that you leave. We do have an addition a few years ago of emergency access gate. For those of you who have lived here for many years, I know a few of the ladies here in the front row, we added an emergency access gate which is between Moss Creek and Colleton River. It's down at Victoria Circle, so it's at one of the furthest areas of the community. And for those that were here, I know Miss Alpert in the back, I know she lives in that area. There was a lot of trees down in that area, and just those members in that area being able to get out of the community was very, very difficult. So we've worked well with Colleton River Security, their management team as well, and vice versa. So if we need out and lose partial access to getting out of the community in the front of the property, we do have another area that we can exit in the back of the community. So that was something that the board and the management team, took care of a few years ago. It took a few years to implement, actually, but it's been outstanding. And also, off the hurricane subject, fire and EMS can come through that gate as well. So that is not just for hurricane purposes, but for emergency response in general. It saved about 3 minutes response time from the fire department, as instead of them coming across and through the entire community. So that's been helpful as well. One or two things that I like to bring up from a community standpoint: if you're ordered to leave and decide to do that, you should turn your water off if you can, so that if there's any breaks going on, that water won't continue to flow. Also, if you have gas, if you have propane or gas to your grills, you want to make sure that that's off so that we don't have that to deal with. And also, as we were talking about a little earlier, if you have any outside furniture or anything that is not 100 pounds or more, you need to bring that into your house or your garages, because they will become flying objects in high winds. I think that's all I have really from a community standpoint. I'm going to let the Major here get into his presentation, and then when we're done, please, any questions you have for the Major or myself, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a fairly good sized room and a really good attendance. For whatever reason, those in the back, if I start to taper off and you can't hear me, just raise your hand a little bit and I'll speak louder. I'll give you fair warning. If one of your fellow community members asks me a question, I normally start dropping my voice because they're up front. I don't want to yell at somebody. Raise your hand, I'll repeat myself, that way you can hear me in the back. Everybody hear me just fine right now? Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. All right, good afternoon again. My name is Adam Zamar. I am a major with the Sheriff's Office. Beaufort County Sheriff's Office is pretty unique in the emergency management realm for South Carolina. We are one of only 2 Sheriff's Offices that also control emergency management for a county. The rest of the 44 counties is controlled by the county administrator or a fire department. It works well with us. The Sheriff, P.J. Tanner, he's the primary public safety officer when it comes down to emergencies in the county. Countywide, he's in charge. We answer directly to him with emergency management. That workflow works very, very well for us. It's been tried, it's been tested. We've had it since 2013. Unfortunately, we've had a storm in 2016, 2017, 2018, so on and so forth. All right? So it's been tried, it's tested, it works for us. All right? I've been with the Sheriff's Office for about 18 years. I've done general patrol stuff, to investigations, to narcotics, to this. All right. Emergency management, Sheriff's Office. So what falls under emergency management? All right. We have our helicopter that flies up above. You'll see it a lot on Saturdays during the summertime, because it's pretty much coming from Beaufort to go fly the beaches, Honey Island, Hilton Head, Frick. So you'll see it moving around a lot. We also have 911. 911 answers to me. So when you call 911 here, you're going up to Beaufort, and we're going to dispatch you out for there's fire, law enforcement, or EMS, whatever you need. We also have traffic management. Traffic management, no, we're not the people out there directing traffic, setting up cones. We control those 82 traffic cameras that are throughout the county right now. Pretty much every major intersection is under, I won't say surveillance, but monitoring by the traffic management crew up there right next to dispatch. There's a wreck out here on 278 in Moss Creek Village, or your community entrance, we can see it. We know if it's one car, two cars, if it's overturned, if it's a fender bender, or someone just blew out a tire and is needing to change the tire. We can kind of get that information to the responders so they know how to appropriately go to the scene. We also have hazardous materials. That's a little bit smaller section, but pretty much they manage all the different hazardous materials that are in the county, whether it's a gas station or Lowe's selling bug spray to gasoline or a truck driving through. They're kind of managing that, making sure we know what's dangerous stuff is in our community that we need to respond to. They keep a catalog for all the fire departments. Say this building housed chemical materials. Fire department gets a call here because of an alarm, they'll send them a notification, hey, that building has a moniker on it or a tag, hey, there's hazardous materials in there, be careful. You know what you'll need to help put out that fire. Right? So they manage that for them as well. All right. Our mission, we pretty much prepare. You're going to hear me say the word prepare, prepare, prepare a lot for this. Right? We prepare all year round for hurricanes. We also prepare for terrorism incidents, natural disasters, hazardous material events, all kinds of things. Right? We develop the plans for them, how we're going to respond. We're going to train, we're also going to exercise. We also coordinate with a lot of other first responders from the fire department, the military, EMS, and other law enforcement agencies, and the state emergency management. We're constantly coordinating so Beaufort County is prepared to respond for whatever we may encounter. Everyone always talks about hurricanes, but I'll tell you in a minute other stuff that we need to prepare for. Everyone hear me okay still? I'm not going too fast? I can get going real quick. All right. All right, the natural disasters, that's pretty much what we're here to kind of talk about, specifically hurricanes, but I'm going to touch on a few other things real quick. All right, that top left corner is obviously a hurricane. That middle one is the ground. All right, did anyone know we have an earthquake problem here in South Carolina? No. All right, we are actually the 5th most active state. We have fault lines all over this state. All right. Obviously, always refers to the big one back in 1889, which shook Charleston. We felt it down here. If anyone takes a tour up in Beaufort with one of the carriage companies, you can actually see some of the cracks in some of the older buildings and some steel rods. People sold to them afterwards saying, hey, this will prevent an earthquake collapse on your building later on down the line. All right, so, but yes, we do have earthquake problems here. The main fault is the Somerville fault up near, Somerville fault near Somerville and Latson area. There's some other ones up in the mid-state and PD area as well, which kind of shake pretty frequently. We're talking about the 1s and the 2s. We don't feel them down here, but they are prevalent. We do need to be prepared for them. Because what do we have a lot around here?
Trees.
Trees. What do we drive over? Very
Bridges,
constantly.
yeah.
Bridges. All right, we are a county of islands. Our bridges are our biggest piece of infrastructure we really need to take care of. All right? There's only one bridge right now that is actually certified right now for the levels of earthquakes from new construction codes. The Harbor Island Bridge that they just built on the north end a couple years ago. Obviously, once hopefully this new one for Hilton Head gets going, that's going to be up to codes as well. But earthquakes, we got to be prepared for them and respond to those. Tornadoes. Luckily for us, we see them every once in a while. Normally they stay west of 95 just because of the way thunderstorms come through here. So, but we still need to be prepared for them. All right, really the last one that touched down in Beaufort County was in 2021. Elsa came through, a tropical storm. Tornado touched down on Paris Island, jumped Battery Creek, went right up Main Street, Port Royal. All right. Luckily, when it went up Main Street, Port Royal, it never made landfall. It stayed at treetop. topped the trees, the tree canopy came down on a couple houses and businesses, and actually one tree split up mobile home in half. Luckily, the person was sleeping on the other half of the mobile home at the time. But tornadoes can touch down, we gotta be prepared for them. Then further back, there's one in St. Helena. If you ever go out to Hunting Island or Fripp, going out that way before you cross the bridge, look on your right-hand side, there's a road that's called Tornado Alley. They named it Tornado Alley because a tornado touched down there, picked up a mobile home, moved it from one side of the street to the other. All right? Still gotta be conscious of tornadoes, be prepared for them. What do you do if you get a tornado warning going off on your cell phone? It's the first thing you do.
Check to see where it is.
Right. You run outside and look and go, hey, where's this tornado coming from? Right? That's absolutely what you do not do. That's what everybody does. They always go right up to the window going, all right, it's going off. Do I see it coming? All right? It happens. All right? It happens. All right? No, you normally go, there are no road basements here in Beaufort County. Go to the most interior room of your house, generally it's a powder room or a bathroom that doesn't have windows, hunker down for a little bit. Tornado warning, that's the one where, hey, it's happening, there's been a tornado sighted, we know there's one, tornado warning, that goes off. So get it on your phones. National Weather Service will do it. Even if your phone's on, that's the only thing that'll stop it. If your phone's off and one happens, keep your phone on. It'll wake you up in the middle of the night. All right? Good.
I have a question. What if we are from out of state and our area code is something other than 4843?
It doesn't go from area code, it goes
From the proximity?
GPS. This is a tracking
Okay.
device.
Okay.
Every single one of you has it. You are being tracked right now somehow, some way.
The other
All right?
thing is, we hear the lightning sirens on the golf course, but is there any other civil defense siren here on the property?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
That is
I was wondering
strictly
about that.
lightning detection.
So if I'm hearing that, I'm hearing lightning and not tornado.
Correct.
I'm from Texas and I hear that and I hear tornado.
So
Come on.
you're talking about tornado sirens, a lot of it out in the Midwest, even though Tornado Alley is shifting east right now, according to all the scientists.
Interesting.
But you were referring to the tornado sirens.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a 50-50 split on how effective they are. Normally, they're from people who are working in outdoor environments. If you're inside watching TV, you're not going to hear the siren. You're not going to get the warning.
True.
If you're outside, field workers, ranch hands, so forth, laborers, you're outside, that's who those were made for. School children on the playgrounds, all right? Here, you're inside all the time. You're not going to hear those. So we don't actually have tornado sirens in Beaufort County, all right? But be prepared for tornadoes. That monster wave right there, tsunamis, all right? That is not what a tsunami looks like. All right, let me see if I have a picture of one. That's what a tsunami looks like. Top left, that's going into Japan, where that nuclear reactor from an earthquake that took out that nuclear reactor over there. Constant series of waves moving in the inland, all right? We live near the coast. We need to prepare for tsunamis as well. Now, it's not as drastic as Hollywood makes it out to be, where you have to migrate 10 miles inland. Not the case, all right? If you're on Hilton Head, if you're on the beach on Hilton Head, and there's a tsunami warning coming out, we're trying to get people off the beaches on Hilton Head, we send them to Hilton Head High School. Same thing with out there on Fripp and Hunting, we send them to St. Helena Elementary School. They're not even leaving the island. We're just getting them away from the proximity of the beach in that main area. And we have maps saying, hey, if a tsunami came in, this is where we need to get people to go. This is the major areas of impact. We have those plans for them, we rehearse them. We actually rehearsed one 2 years ago. We were doing the exercise, and we had a person from the National Weather Service, Charleston, with us in the exercise. He gets a phone call saying, hey, there's an earthquake off the coast of North Carolina. We might have a tsunami coming. And we go, you gotta be kidding me. Right? He goes, give me 15 minutes, I'll give you guys confirmation. Instead of doing an exercise, we're gonna go to real world. It didn't happen. He called back up there and said, no, the earthquake wasn't big enough. There is no tsunami threat, but it's a oh boy factor kind of thing. We're preparing for it, and one might actually happen. All right. I mentioned North Carolina. That is one of our main threats off the coast of the Outer Banks. There's a big old ledge there. We're going to have earthquake activity, sub-oceanic landslide earthquake pushes the tectonic plate up. Tsunami forms. About 2 hours till it gets here. Next area of opportunity for us is the Puerto Rico Trench. Given its name, it's off the coast of Puerto Rico. About 4 to 6 hours it would take to get here. Then there's the one off the coast of Africa, 24 hours or so. That's the big one. All right. Very, very low probability of that happening, but you still got to prepare for that kind of stuff. So we prepare for tsunamis as well. All right. And then the bottom one with lightning, those are our general thunderstorms that come through every spring, right around this time. We had a couple the past couple weeks. You get some big boomers coming through. They can cause sometimes as much damage as a tropical storm or a hurricane. They're just really, really brief. So you need to be prepared for them. When you get those warnings from the National Weather Service, take them seriously. All right, someone mentioned 60-mile-an-hour gusts coming through here the other day, taking down a tree or some big old limbs. It happens. Right? If that fell on your house, what do? You need to prepare for those type of contingencies. All right. Already mentioned the tornadoes. There's the thunderstorms. All right. Hurricanes, which is why we are all here today, right? All right. General show of hands. Who was here for Matthew 2016? All right. About a third, a little less. Who was here for Irma? All right. Who was here for Dorian? That was about 2019. All right, less. Who's been here less than 4 years? Who's been here less than 2 years? All right, 2 to 4 year people. All right. Okay. So our last activity was last year we activated for a tropical storm that came through. Idalia came across Florida up our coast, real close call. Went to sleep one night, thinking, okay, it's going to stay to our west a little bit. We'll get a little bit of impact. It shifted overnight. Come into work the next day, and it's like, oh boy, that was not what they said that was going to happen. All right, let's start ramping things up. It came right up the coast. At one point, it was going to come and impact Hilton Head, straight for Hilton Head. And we're like, ah, great. Pushed a little further east, went a little north, made pretty much landfall Myrtle Beach area, North Carolina border area. All right, that was our last storm. All right, trees come down, a lot of rain, stuff like that. Our Matthew folks, a lot of trees, right?
I lost 9 trees.
9 trees.
4 of them on my house.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody in Moss Creek drove down my street to look. I
Yeah.
had the worst. You remember
You
that?
probably have
September?
you probably have your house with a picture with a slideshow on it. Somewhere, right?
Very well.
All right, you're an example. But hurricanes, they do happen. We had a dry spell for a while. Then they got boom, boom, boom. We got hit, hit, hit. I don't want to say we're another dry spell or anything, but we need to be prepared for them. It's serious. It really can devastate a community. But obviously, hurricane season, June 1 through November 30th. It's pretty much 6 months out of the year, half the year. We are in hurricane season. All right. So what do we need to do for hurricanes? Prepare, 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 prepare. All right. This is already my 3rd talk of the year so far, and already booked out another couple weeks. Myself and my boss. Probably do about over 100 of them a year. All right. This is part of preparation, giving you guys information and knowledge of what you guys need to do for hurricane season specifically. All right. Information, plan. We're going to respond. They're going to evaluate after the fact. What did I do well? What did I do wrong? What am I going to do for next time? All right. Pretty much almost a planning cycle. All right. The W's of information: the who, when, where, why. All right. Who are you going to listen to? Chief already kind of alluded to it. Stay off social media. Do not listen to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. They're going to give you bad information. You're going to get one of these influencers going, hey, hurricane's coming. I went to Meteorology 101 for a semester. I got a C, but I know what I'm talking about. And they're going to be sitting there with their stick going up by the ocean, trying to be Jim Cantori, telling you what's going on. Don't listen to them. You're going to get bad information. All right? Follow the official sources, National Weather Service, Charleston. They're the ones paid by for the federal government. They're not going to lie to you. They're going to give you the scientific facts of what's happening. All right? Sheriff's Office with Nixle. We'll get into Nixle in a minute. Press conferences, WTOC, WSAV, whoever you like down there in Savannah. Listen to those folks. They're going to give it to you straight what you need to do. They're not going to hype it up. They're not going to give you the national or the weather channels, entertainment channel we call them sometimes, stories of hype up on information. All right? Listen to those official sources. All right? When do you want to talk about what you're going to do during a hurricane? All right? When the hurricane's coming? No. Plan ahead of time. I actually put the family gatherings up there at one point, thinking it was a joke. Because who wants to talk about hurricane preparedness during Thanksgiving dinner or 4th of July cookout? But it actually makes a lot of sense after I was thinking about it, because you have all your family together pretty much at one place. And you kind of have that interoperability or continuity. You all know what you're going to be doing together. You know what the plan's going to be. Someone's not going to be deviating left or right, because they're all sitting there communicating together at one time. So family gathering is actually a good time to talk about hurricane preparedness. Where to get the information from? I already mentioned Nixle. Who's members of Nixle? All right, not that many hands went up. It's not just for hurricanes. You could do it for all kinds of community, pretty much county notifications. If an accident happened out there at 278 Moss Creek and it shut the intersection down, a Nixle will go out, and that way you know you might be late for a doctor's appointment. You can call the doctor up ahead of time. Hey, I'm kind of blocked in my neighborhood because of an accident. I'm going to be late. It might be 20 minutes, or we might need to reschedule. But you'll get that notification. Or you might be driving down 278 and you see a bunch of cop cars screaming to one location and jumping out with guns and shotguns and standing around and dogs running around and a helicopter flying above, buzzing around. You're going, what is going on? If you had Nixle, they'll tell you. They might not tell you specifically what it is, but they'll say, hey, heavy law enforcement presence in ABC neighborhood because of a burglary. But at least that curiosity, you'll know. We paid for it for the sheriff's office. We didn't disseminate it out. It's free. Sign up for it. You can do it by email or text on your phone. All right. National Hurricane Center down there in Miami, BCSO Twitter, and also FEMA as well. Go to those sources of information. They're not going to steer you in the wrong direction. Now, why are we doing this? We're going to plan, we're going to prepare, we're going to respond, and evaluate. We're doing this to prepare ourselves. So we get the right information, we develop our own plan so we're not panicking at the last minute going, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Plan to evacuate. Kind of already mentioned the evacuation process. Now I'm going to stay on the slide for a little bit. All right. In South Carolina, only the governor has the authority to declare an evacuation. And they are all mandatory. There's no voluntary, all mandatory. Governor, he or she says, I'm issuing an evacuation at 8 a.m. on this date and time. You're expected to leave. It's for your safety. Hurricanes do bad things. They can put 8 trees on your house. 9 trees on your house.
I couldn't get back home.
I know.
mean, there were trees across the road.
Imagine if you were
I
in the house.
I had evacuated.
Yes, that's why. All right? Dangerous situation, they do not, you're putting your life in peril. Straight up. All right? 2, other factor is, say a young lady was still at home. She tries to call 911, given that 911's still up because it hasn't got taken down from the storm. Well, man, we'd love to come, but it's going to take us about 30, 40, 2 days, 3 days to get to you because we got to cut through all these trees to get a fire truck and an ambulance to you. All right? It delays the response as well if you stick around. God forbid you have a heart attack or another medical emergency. How are you getting out? Now, you're on your own. You're stranded. That's why they tell you to leave. They don't make the decisions lightly. The governor listens to all his advisors. He listens to the local policy group, consists of the sheriffs, municipal mayors, county council, chairman of county council. They take these decisions very seriously. They understand the impact it takes on the community, economics, people's lives to issue that order. The governor does it. He expects people to comply. All right. Go, sir.
The rule of thumb that I've heard described before is that if you choose to ride something out, you should basically plan on 72 hours without any government
More than that.
assistance. Even more.
Matthew was 10 days. Now, we got into different communities quicker and stuff, but you never know. You don't, I mean, you can't say, all right, well, that storm, yeah, it's only going to take down 5 trees. We'll be good. You don't know. And you'll see an example in a little bit of complacency and comparison of hurricanes. All right, but be prepared to camp out and be on your own for a while, all right, if you choose to stay.
Just curious, with Matthew, was there a storm surge that flooded any part of Moss Creek?
We did have some temporary issues with the causeways, but most of it was tree related, not water related. It was a very short period of time that the causeways were not passable.
So this is also kind of segue into a little bit later, but I'll answer right now. Every storm's different. In hindsight, us looking at things, Matthew was a wind event. The next year later, Irma came through. Irma was a water event, which meant there was more water inundation, surge inundation, than trees down. And so it's kind of flip-flop. Every storm's different. So you can't just go judge everything off one storm, how it affected you. There are 2 causeways that I just drove here to get here. They were probably underwater at one point. The tide receded. They were there. I don't know if they were attacked or not, but other causeways got washed out. So this depends on the tide cycle, and there's stuff I'll go into as well as that. but the governor with the authority to issue the evacuation order. It works for South Carolina. He or she's the only one. In comparison, everyone heard of Katrina down there in Louisiana, all right? One of the reasons why there was such a massive loss of life for that storm, one, because it was really, really bad, but two, in this, what's the word?
Parish.
The parishes, yes, but conflicting messages. In Louisiana, they have local authority. So that means the school superintendent can issue an evacuation order, the local municipal judge could issue an evacuation order, the mayor could issue an evacuation order, so forth and so forth. One of them saying leave, one of them saying stay, one of them saying it's not going to be that bad, make up your own mind. Here in South Carolina, one person only. Mandatory by law, leave. You can't get that mixed up. All right. Everyone know if they do choose to leave, where they're going.
I was gonna ask you, how far inland should you go?
So if there is an evacuation order, all right, go as far inland as you feel safe. That's the political correct answer.
Okay.
All right. But during an evacuation order, there is a system of roadways that you will see people dressed like me, tan, blue, yellow, not yellow, but tan, blue, green shirts, waving you, telling you which way to go. They're going to push you pretty much to I-20. Yeah, I-20 in the middle of the state. From there, you can go whichever way you want.
Okay.
That's where they're going to push you.
Okay.
All right. But do you know where you're going to go? Are you going to a family friend's house? Are you going to a relative's house? Are you going to a hotel? Are you going on vacation? There are always some people do go on vacation. They say, we got to get out of here. I'm going to Hawaii. There's no hurricane out there right now. Or typhoon, they call them in the Pacific. All right. Know where you want to go. Now's the time to plan. All right. If you're going to do hotels, know which hotel you want to go to right now. Have their phone number saved in your hurricane plan. So that way, when you make that decision, you're calling them right away to get a reservation. Because everybody in Beaufort County, possibly Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, is doing the same thing. All right? Hotels love hurricane season. All right? Know which one you want to go to. If you're going to the Hampton Inn in Greenville, have their phone number saved in your plan. If you're going to the one in Atlanta, have it in your plan. How many have pets? How many of y'all have pets? All right? If you're going to a hotel, make sure one is pet friendly. Most of them are nowadays, but make sure. I always use the example. You're kind of in competition with someone else. If you beat someone else out because you were prepared, you knew what hotel number you wanted to go, or the hotel you wanted to go to, you had their number, and you call, you might have just beat out the other person who was flipping through their phone or searching on Google looking for that phone number and missed that reservation by 10 seconds. It's that big of a difference. All right? Luckily, this is pretty much a very affluent community. I'll get you 1 second. Let me just kind of get through this one part. Affluent community, I'm sure you're probably not fighting for hotels. You're probably going to a family friend's house, or if you're lucky enough, a second home. But have that plan ahead of time. All right? Yes, ma'am.
So when there's a mandatory evacuation, there is no rule that the hotels have to accept pets? That's not true? Okay.
No. Not in South Carolina, at least, put it that way.
Okay.
All right. You're going to leave. Do you know which route you're going to get out of here?
Yes.
All right. It's pretty much really only one, 278 that one. I mean, we're not going to let you go towards the ocean, but 278. Now the key here is you need to know what lane you need to be in. If you're leaving after the evacuation order, 8 a.m. on whatever day it is, you need to know which lane you want to be in. If you want to keep all the roads kind of mesh together at some point, so they're all the same terminology or road number. But say you want to go up to 462 through Hampton to get to 62 to keep going west. You need to be in the right lane on 278 going westbound right before McGarvey's to push you off. If you want to go keep going west on 278 to jump over 95 to go to 278 extension to get to Hampton and out that way, you need to be in the left lane when you get in the Gardens Corner. That's the difference of what you need to know. Which direction you want to, what roadway you want to travel to get to your destination. Now, the key to avoiding that, being told which way to go by someone dressed like me, or a tan shirt, or a gray shirt, is leave early. All right? If you leave before that evacuation order at 8 a.m. on whatever day it is, you can drive whichever route you want. You can go around the traffic circle 3 times if you want, before jumping off to go on whatever roadway you want to take. Leave early. That's the key. All right?
How much notice do you usually get?
We try to give you as much notice as we can. We have software systems that tell us, hey, we need to have this evacuation order issued at this time. So they'll normally make a notification 12, 24 hours ahead of time, saying the governor is intending on issuing an evacuation order on this date and time. Try to give as much advance notice as possible. So how do we figure that out? We know approximately how many people are in Beaufort County based on the census data, kind of tack in based on season of how many tourists we expect. And we go, all right, it takes between 28 to 36 hours to evacuate Beaufort County. We need to start now. Now, I just scared a couple people because they're thinking I'm going to be sitting in traffic for 26 to 38 or 28 to 36 hours. No, you will not. How it works is, say we start at this time, at 8 a.m. on whatever day, from the first person to leave Beaufort County to the last person to leave, that, given that everybody leaves 28 to 36 hours. You will not be sitting in traffic for that long. Right? So don't let that deter you from leaving.
I will warn everybody, if you wait till the end and you get on 95, you've got everybody from Florida who is coming up on 95. And there's only 2 lanes now on 95.
Right now, yeah.
So, I mean, even on a regular day, I went up to Charlotte one day and I was on 95 and there was an accident. And I mean, it was hours.
And if there's an accident, they're just going to push you off to the side and let traffic keep going too. All right?
Yeah, but you gotta get somebody who's gonna be able to do it.
They actually have people, they have trip trucks staged in certain areas for that and stuff like that. But again, 95, only one route gets you on 95. Everything's going to push you west. Push you west. Yes?
If the evacuation is canceled,
Mm-hmm.
how are you then alerted and when can you come back if it goes, if the hurricane goes
If-
into effect?
If they cancel the evacuation order, which they have done, all right, they'll put out these media blasts saying, hey, we rescinded our evacuation order. Then it's your choice if you want to keep going or not. If you say, hey, I just feel a little safer just going to my hotel, friend's house for a couple days, I'll let this pass and I'll just come back in, your choice. If you go, all right, woohoo, I'm going to go back and have a hurricane party, your choice too. All right, that mandatory order is lifted. All right.
Does Nixle tell you that?
Yeah, they'll blast it out on Nextdoor as well. Oh, yes. They're going to send it out on all those official sources
They
of.
leave and come back.
Mhm. All right. So, moving beyond this, the evacuation now itself, what things do you all need to prepare for to take with you? All right. All right. Your pets. All right. Medicine, money, important documents. Crack a joke every once in a while. Spouses, if you want to take your significant other, that's your choice. All right. If you want to leave them behind and stuff. All right. But medicine. Say you know you're going to evacuate and you're planning on leaving for 10 days because that's what you're just anticipating. And you're shaking your little medicine bottle and you only got 4 left. Call your doctor or primary physician and say, hey, I need to up my prescription. Can you write me a script? So, because I'm evacuating. Right? Some physicians, some pharmacists will let you transfer from Walgreens, South Carolina to Walgreens, New York. That's all different corporate policies and your physician and stuff, but for those who are not, prepare for that. Up your dosage, or not up your dosage. Refill your prescription, all right, before you go. That way you have it. Bring some money with you. If you come back, when it's time to come back and your bank ATM's not working, debit card systems might be down, have some cash on hand with you as well, all right? Obviously your insurance documents, it's no fun dealing with the insurance companies now. If you're an insurance owner or work for an insurance company, no offense to you, but calling an insurance company, getting something done, especially when everybody else is doing the same thing, have all your paperwork. Instead of having to go through social security number, mother's date of birth, pet's name, when you were in high school, all right, who was your best friend, and who won prom, queen, or king, all right, have that policy number. It's a lot easier just to give it to that receptionist than go through all the different prompts, all right? Have those things with you. And here's the next key issues. Does everyone know where all those things are? Or are they scattered throughout your house?
Yeah.
All right, that's part of your hurricane preparedness plan, all right? Most of my stuff is in the safe in the bedroom or in a cabinet in the office or above the pantry, hiding behind the cereal boxes. All right? Know where it is. So that way, when you're preparing to leave, you're not tearing apart your entire house trying to find those documents. Know where they are. Checklist done. All right?
Do you have to have like the original, or could you just make a copy of the declaration?
That's up to every independent insurance company, financial institution, lawyers. Always having the original is always easier. It's probably better to have it. I was doing a presentation, one young lady raised her hand. I just scan everything to a scan disk, mail it to where I'm going, and it goes there in the mail for me. That's also my backup. I go, good piece of advice, I'm gonna start using that one.
One of the things that was suggested is that you take pictures of it on your phone.
You can do that too.
Videotape your hacks, just to, put, this is my curio. These are the things that are important, so you have those things with you on your phone so that there's some video.
Yep. I video my house every year. If you do a major renovation and it's not on your assessment or anything like that, the insurance company's gonna fight you tooth and nail. Go, you didn't have a stand-up shower in that room. We're not paying for that for a remodel. Stuff like that. Everyone's gonna be claiming stuff. Have that documentation. Documentation. Okay. All right. Consequences if you choose not to stay. All right. Storm surge, which we'll get into a little bit. 74-mile-an-hour winds, beginning of a hurricane. Storm force winds. Communication failures. I'm sure you're not like my kids that are glued to their phones all the time, but cell phones are going to be out, tablets are going to be down. Instead of reading a newspaper, if you get your morning news off your tablet, Kindle, not going to work. All right. Your creature comforts are gone. Your AC. I don't want to be outside or sitting in my house in August or September without AC. It's miserable. Right? Those are going to be gone. Water, not be able to flush your toilet, stuff like that. Those things can go away real quick when a hurricane comes in. All right? Emergency kit. And if you're staying, do you have those necessities to sustain your ability to thrive for a duration of 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days? Can you do that? Are you a prepper? Do you watch Bear Grylls? Do you think you could survive that situation on your own? Right? Those are the things that need to go through your head. What if you're an individual who has to wear a CPAP or other medical device which requires electrical power? Unless you have a really, really good generator with a lot of gas, that might be another factor you need to take into consideration. What if you're someone who's just really, really accident prone and always needs to go to the hospital, like Tim the Toolman Taylor? All right? I just dated myself a little bit. All right? Those types of situations. I say the hospital. During Matthew, the hospital shut down. They evacuated. They did it in Irma too. Closest hospital is Orangeburg. Orangeburg on a good day is 45 minutes to an hour away. Imagine on a bad day with storms, winds, congestion. It could be a while. All right? Take that into consideration in your planning of what you want to do. I recommend you leave. This is just different types of categories. Don't relate the storm surge to the category. It could be different. It's just an example. All right. Category 1 is probably I won't say least invasive, but on the smaller scale, Category 5. Put it in perspective. If Category 4 or Category 5 starts coming this way, I say bye-bye too. All right. We move ourselves to another facility we have in Hampton, and that's where we stay when the storm comes. We ride it out there and come back in. Category 4 or 5, well 3 could be originally real devastating too, so it could be 1 or 2. But 4 or 5, that's when the police, fire, and EMS even leave. This is examples. This is not our area. Right? This is just pictures from Category 1 storms throughout the country of what it can do. Obviously, stuff, wind debris, surge coming in up to that person's steps, the sidings coming off. Pretty sure that dumpster wasn't parked on the side of the street right there at one point in time. The water moved it, picked it up, and then floated a little bit down the way. Unless someone was standing in it with like a 2x4 using it as a canoe. It's also plausible, all right? But that's the devastation of a Category 2. Category 3, look at the roofs. Some of them aren't there anymore. The beach and the sand is, oh well, now other people have beachfront property. Category 4, look at the boats. All right. There was some water right here, it looks like that might have been a canal or inlet, and look where the person's boat is, and that's a big boat.
Oh, my.
Category 5.
Katrina.
Yeah.
That might have been Michael in Florida Panhandle.
Oh, really? It looks like Katrina.
And it could be. It didn't. I didn't.
I've
it
seen
just
that
said,
shot.
Yeah, it just said Category 5. Sorry.
Yeah.
But look what it did to the bridge.
Yeah.
All right.
I-10.
Storm surge. Some people get confused by storm surge. Now here on Hilton Head, we have on average about a 7-foot tide every day on average. Then you have the king tides. Luckily for us, king tides seem to have to always coordinate with hurricane season in September and October and August. They like to come through at that time. They get elevated to 10. So say worst case scenario, and it always happens to us somehow, some way, that hurricane always wants to come in at high tide on a king tide. On a 10-foot tide, that's when it wants to make landfall with us or come near us at some point. So we're gonna have our 10-foot tide, right there, forget 2, think of 10. And then the hurricane experts are telling us, hey, this storm's gonna come in with about 12-foot storm surge. So add 12 plus 10, and then you get your storm tide. That's the amount of water coming on land, 22 feet. 22 feet is probably higher than some of these elevated homes where the garage is on the bottom. My porches start way up top there. Right? That's how they calculate all that information. Think of that water coming in. Right? That's why we leave. Right? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're new, so this is a dumb question, excuse me. If we don't back up to the waters, if we back up to the golf course, do I have to worry about storm surge? Tell me why, I don't understand.
It all depends. The storm surge just doesn't affect the beachfront, or if you're right here on a marsh. You got to think about it coming further in, all right? Because that water's got to go somewhere. And it's going to keep pushing until it doesn't have any more resistance or any more power. The wind pushing it for that way, all right? So if I wish I had I don't think I have an image of the slash models. Yes, I do.
While he's doing it, I can give you an idea. This building was actually a great source of evacuation for some people that were in the Salt Marsh Cottage area, you know, Marsh Winds, those areas, which obviously have water around it. But we also had some impassable areas up around Spartina and Moss Creek Drive. So there are low-lying areas, as Major's saying, that aren't necessarily what you would think would be water-related. There's areas that could be low-lying that are main roadways. Don't drive through them.
If you have this with you, if you got it off the table, is what I'm referring to. Right? You have one. So if you're looking at that chart, in red is what an expected storm surge to be, worst case scenario for Category 1. Most of that's probably marsh. That's not habitable, but that's what water will be for a Category 1. Category 2 is the pink, 3 is the orange, yellow is for 4, and green is for 5. All right? Not all of that's all right by the water, right?
Nope.
So 278 is going to be underwater at some point. Moss Creek is going to be obviously all of Marsh Creek will be underwater at some point. Again, category, not category, but there's only a couple pockets where you see white, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That one big one in the middle, that's pretty much the Marine Corps Air Station. That's the runway. They chose that for a reason. Right? People in the Pentagon are pretty smart at some point in time. Well, hey, that's where we're going to put an airfield. That's the highest point in the county. Right? Then the other one's out there in Pritchardville, right by pretty much where, is that 170? Yeah, 170 area. Right? So just because you're not by a body of water does not mean you cannot be impacted by storm surge. Okay? Yes, sir.
Jim, do we have any history here, since we sit on a retention pond, are the retention ponds overflowing to a certain degree?
Typically not. They're very good at taking the water. What we try to do is we just disperse it ahead of time. You'll see that when we get heavy rains. So it's not just a storm, but you'll see Mitchell and his crew start doing that. He's like, why do they have the sprinkling system on? What they're trying to do is disperse the water so that the ground can soak up as much as possible, allow the ponds to take on as much water as possible. But no, we haven't had any issues, and we, not just Matthew, but as Major said, like with Irma, was a water issue. We did not have any issues like that at all.
Thank you.
It kind of puts the onus on your property management crew here. They intentionally build those systems to drain them out for that reason. I won't name the community, but back in Matthew, one community did not do that. That community, they had to access it by boat.
Well, just for clarification, the only thing we can drain running out is the effluent pond.
Yeah.
The rest of the stormwater ponds, we don't have the ability to drain those. Those just drain naturally out to the marsh. But some communities do have a system where they can lower ponds. We don't have that here at Moss Creek, but we've not had a problem. The only pond we can physically lower is our effluent pond.
Thank you.
It's a good question, Ms. Brown asked that. But did that answer your question, what the storm surge? Yes. All right, misconception, sometimes why people don't want to leave. They don't actually have all the facts or information. All right, they see that cone. Everyone's very familiar with that picture? Yeah. That image? Yep. All right, that's the cone. They call it the cone of uncertainty. All right, what that means is 67% of the time, the probability that the center of the storm, the eye, is going to fall within that cone. The eye could end up right there in the middle, how they always have it projected in the circle. It could be on that bottom line, it could be on that top line, which means there's other parts of the storm that are outside the cone. So just because Moss Creek or Beaufort County is outside the cone does not mean we might not be impacted by a hurricane or its effects. It just means the eye is not going to travel directly over us. All right? 67% of the time, they get that right. The other time,
Third of the time.
So the only good news is, with technology and the advancement of science, those cones are getting smaller and smaller each year. So they're getting better at predicting the paths. Okay, that was Hurricane Matthew. You can see how there's that cone. All right, here's the other misconception. All right. M stands for major hurricane. H stands for hurricane. Major hurricane is 3 or greater. Hurricane is a 1 or a 2. Right? So down there, off pretty much a little bit north of Fort Lauderdale area, it was a major hurricane, which means it was a Category 3. Right? Then on our coast, it was a Category H, which means it's 1 or 2. Right? Off the coast of South Carolina, it was a Category 2. Right? But no one here, 9 trees on our house, actually experienced a Category 2 level winds or storm surge. We experienced tropical storm force winds. So we actually really didn't live through a hurricane, but survived a tropical storm. People think, hey, I rode out a Category 2, I can do it again. Not the case.
In my case, they said a tornado came down the street.
It's possible.
We had some trees that you could see the
The
bark.
circulation.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and
And that's a very common occurrence, especially with hurricanes, tropical storms. The the tornadoes love to form in that, especially that right front quadrant, which is the most dangerous area of the storm. They'll produce the tornadoes, which cause more damage. Right? It's a little, what's the word? Cascading effect of hurricanes as well. Right? But the misconception, that's sometimes why people don't want to leave. They believe they lived through something they did not. Again, there's the track and timeline. Never made landfall on us. It stayed off the coast. The eye was about 80 miles off the coast of the but we still had, those who've seen pictures or lived through it, pretty significant damage of trees, water, things shut down. Right? You need to be prepared for it. Another misconception. All right? Hurricane Irma, 17, is a big storm. That was a Category 2. Andrew, tiny storm. Everyone remember what Andrew did to Miami? Doesn't matter what size. A smaller storm can be more devastating than a big storm. They're all different. They all have different components, different variables. Some are more water-driven, some are more wind-driven. Some could be both. Don't go back based off just past events of one storm coming to our area and saying it's going to be the same exact thing. It's going to be different. All right. Here's your evaluation process. All right. Kind of now going to the point where we left, and now you want to come back. All right. You made the good decision. I'm leaving. I'm going to go away for a little bit. It's time for me to come back. What should I expect? Should I come back? Wait for us to tell you to come back. You don't know what you're going to be coming back to. What the chief kind of alluded to is parts of Moss Creek only had a couple trees down. Obviously, unfortunately, 9. Causeways were good. The roadways were open. But down the street, on the mile or two, another plantation could be completely devastated. No power, no running water, trees completely down across all their properties. Different scenario. We understand the big picture because we're calling around going, hey, how are you guys looking? Oh, we're good. We don't have this issue. All right, it's not that bad. Call another one. We need big time help. All right. The other factor is the hospitals have to be open, or else we can let people back in. If there's no place for someone to go get care, how can we say it's come back and it's going to be okay, it's safe? After you might not have power. All right, so you have to take that in consideration. What am I coming back to? Am I coming back to beach weather, sunny days? Or am I coming back to that? We'll let you know. All right, am I coming back to that? That was Adalia last year down in Florida, Fort Myers area. Hopefully, I mean, you can't come back to that. Right? Again, when you come back, what's down? What's not working? Water systems are down, gas stations are down, hospitals, roadways not passable. Can't go anywhere to get groceries. You need to eat. All right. Matthew happened. They had the roadway shut down at Hilton Bridge. They decided to lift it because of demand. People want to get back home to their houses. They said, fine. There's some people that will wade through waist deep water to get back to their house. And they go, well, why didn't you tell me this? Well, we told you that you shouldn't come back, but you did. Listen, all right? There's those yellow business cards out there. Grab one of those before you go. Toll-free number. You can call. They'll give you constant updates twice a day of the scenario here. Right? For Moss Creek, you would be unincorporated Beaver County. Prop number 1, I believe. Right there. All right. Don't write the number down. Just grab one of the little business cards. Grab 2. Throw them in your glove box. Throw them in your wallet, purse, your preparedness kit, wherever you want to go. Call that number before coming back or throughout whenever. I'll tell you what's going on. All right, the reentry system, what the chief alluded to, he was alluding more to the fact of first responder reentry cards. You, as the general public, do not need a reentry card. Your driver's license, and if this is not your primary residence and you have a driver's license from a different state, the property paid tax bill will get you in. Name and address on it, you'll waive it at the checkpoint, we put up a checkpoint, and they'll bring you back in when they call for Tier 4 general public. That gets you back in the county when it's time and ready. All right. You don't need to call us and say, I need a reentry pass, I need this, this, and this. Your driver's license or your property tax bill will get you in. Okay.
Can you have it on your phone?
You might have the deputy look and really zoom in on your phone, make sure it's you kind of thing. But 2, you're kind of also violating state law if you don't have your driver's license on your person.
No, tax
Oh, she
bill.
missed the tax.
Oh, your tax bill? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see why not. I mean, if it's on there and it's legible, if it's one of those fuzzy things where you have to really scroll in, they might say,
Okay.
but you have an honest face, so we'll sure. All right. But what we're trying to do with that tier system is, 1, keep people out that don't need to be in here. The roofing contractors or the handymans that are going to try and gouge you and con you saying you need XYZ repairs, keep them out for a while. All right. Also, it lets all the critical infrastructure people get back here first, get their job done, get the power back up for you, get your water back up, open up the grocery store. We'll let the grocery store manager and their main public service or handyman in to get their generators up and working or get the refrigerators back on and working so you guys have food to eat. We're going to make sure they get back in here, pretty much reestablish quality of life, and say, hey, all right, Beaufortonians, come on back in. All right. There's that thing. Who has flood insurance? Good. All right. FEMA will only reimburse you money if you don't have flood insurance. All right. But it's not a lot of money. $25,000 pretty much is the average they'll give somebody if they make a claim for flood damage from a result of a natural disaster. All right. $25,000 might not even buy you a new floor. If you have hardwood floors or porcelain tile or marble Italian Carrera or whatever you might have, you need to carry your own flood insurance. Yes, it's expensive, but when you need it, it'll be worth it.
FEMA's running out of money.
That too. Planning resources. I've already talked about several times your pretty much emergency kit or your emergency plan. I can go on and on and on, and every single household in here is slightly different. It's better if you go to one of these websites. That's one is ready.gov, controlled by FEMA. They'll give you those items that you need to plan for. They'll pretty much have almost templates for your preparedness checklist or kit of what you need. Go to those. I actually even think there's one in the hurricane guides as well. That it's like a little smaller version. But use those. You can also get to them from our storm center at dcso.net, or even the state's emergency management at scemd.org. Go to those websites. They'll give you the tools, the tricks, everything you need to prepare for, and a lot more to kind of build that hurricane and write almost any natural disaster plan that you need to know. And that was it. So I know I cover a lot. Sometimes I go fast. I can kind of jump around depending on questions. Is there anything you guys need to know that I did not cover? Hit me with the questions. I'll answer as best for you as I can. Yes, sir.
What about, hurricane shutters, preparing your house?
Okay, again, every house is different. Hurricane shutters is a good idea. Is it going to save your house? Depending on the storm, yes or no. What it's going to do is it's going to prevent those flying objects the chief was talking about, if that neighbor forgot to put their patio umbrella away, from going through your window. And now all the rain's coming in and damaging it. That's what the hurricane shutter is going to do. All right. How you put them up also depends on the type of home you have. Back in the day, or even current now, sometimes contractors left 8.5 by 4, 6 sheet of plywood and 2 2x4s. There's your storm shutter. Other ones nowadays with your home, or you can even buy them aftermarket, are these tarps, like these really thick plastic membranes that go over your windows that have bolt-in as well. It just depends on what you have. Some people have the Carolina shutters that just collapse in. That works well too. Some have the little Florida hurricane ones that fold down, kind of act as an awning. Every house is different, but they can protect your windows and your doors, yes. Other questions?
Prior years, Moss Creek provided sand with sandbags. Are you going to do that?
We do not do sandbag operations. There is not enough time, resources, sand that's truly going to protect our waterways or your private property from sandbagging.
We will.
Yeah,
so we,
standpoint?
yeah, Major, we do, if there's a storm coming, we will put out sand in sandbags, because there are some people that want that, so.
We don't, from a county standpoint, it's just too much to cover, and it's not feasible.
Can you explain a little more about that? Like, who would use a sandbag? Why would you make a decision to do that or not do that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, some people might already know that they're low lying, and when if a big storm comes and if it's a king tide already without a hurricane, that water might come up to their garage. So some people like that like to just go ahead and put it in front of their garage. So you would kind of know if your home would already have an issue with some of the high tides that we have and storms that we have that come through.
And the nice part about it is, once you get the sandbags, just empty out the sand, bring it back to the sand pile, to the golf course, keep the sandbags. Mitchell has plenty of sand, available. What we typically do is dump a few tons of sand up by the marina area, the Boswick area. You just ask people to go up and fill a couple of sandbags, again, depending on your area. Garages, front doors, things like, things of that nature. But it's all part of our preparedness as well, from a county standpoint and then from a community standpoint. As early as we start to get that information, what we do at that point is then put our plans into effect. Make sure the chainsaws are there for the roadways, all of that clearing, fuel, all of those, let you know what areas that you can get out of much easier than others, which are the low-lying areas. So if you're new, and I'm happy to speak with you, personally afterwards to see if you're in a more of a vulnerable area.
Me too. I got someone emailed me about a question that, Major talked about having no water. So we don't turn off the water here. We do turn the water and electricity off at the marina because all that stuff is exposed. But what can happen is a tree falls or something disrupts and we have a disruption in one of our water lines. But we're not turning off the water. Beaufort Jasper doesn't turn off the water that I'm aware they do. During Matthew, we had water here, so we get our water from Beaufort Jasper. So it wasn't something that we turn off unless there was an issue. But I know in Hilton Head, they had sewer line breaks. They had all kinds of things happen, and people did not have water. And so you should always fill up your bathtub if you decide to stay. but you shouldn't be here, so that shouldn't be a problem. And we're not gonna allow you to come back until we're able to restore all those things. We try to communicate with you during evacuation every day. We will send out an update at 11 o'clock and 4 o'clock, so that you know that's when it's coming, so that you're not always looking. So we try to gather all of our information, do an information dump for you in the morning, do an information dump for you in the afternoon.
Those are emails.
Those are emails.
Yes.
We post every email on our website. We have a hurricane tab that's probably going live in the next day or so. It's under Member Central Hurricane Preparedness. It'll have all this information, all the phone numbers. And if we start sending out communication during evacuation, email, June 7th, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., email June 7th, 4 p.m. We're going to post all that stuff on that, because wherever you are evacuated, you should be able to get to our website. Our website's not going to go down.
Where's your website hosted?
Our website is hosted in the cloud.
Where?
With Cloud Central up in, I think they're in Canada or somewhere, so,
Okay.
yeah.
No, I know because down when New Jersey got hit, their websites were hosted in New York, they were down.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
Just food for thought, and I know this on the surface is going to sound illogical and extreme, but I have a friend who is the mayor of one of the New Jersey shore towns that was devastated by Sandy. And one of the things that they took upon themselves was he sent out his public workers once they were allowed back, and they photographed every house in the town to give people a sense of understanding as to what had happened to their individual homes, and more importantly, to prevent people from trying to get back in by hook or by crook just to see their house.
So what we will do is we won't go house to house because there's just too many.
Right.
But what they have, they call it a damage assessment team. It's part of the county. Actually, each municipality has their own as well. They'll go out and do a survey. And they'll start taking pictures more for one, federal reimbursement purposes. So hey, this is how much damage, we need federal dollars. But they'll also have, like, we have our PIO and our media teams. They'll go out and do the same thing, and they'll take it and they'll start popping it on the Facebook and the sheriff's office Facebook or Instagram, so the community can say, hey, yeah, it's pretty bad here. Don't be too eager to come back.
We
We'll
did
let
that
you know.
as well here.
We did, yeah.
When, some of our staff could come in, Kelly, my office, and myself, we drove all the streets in Moss Creek. We took pictures of people's homes that had a lot of trees on them. We tried to contact them, let them know, yes, your home, you are gonna need something, or so-and-so called, no, this house was fine. And so we were in constant contact with security, updating them on every house that we could as we drove around, because people wanted to know, and they were calling. And so we did the best we can, and your street was really bad.
I will tell you, Mr. Pinter called me, I was evacuated from the state, told me, oh, Alice, it's not bad, your house isn't fine. Everybody in Moss Creek drove down my street to see my house.
It was horrendous. I was here through it all, and
I mean-
I can tell you, saw timber was devastating.
Well, but the interesting thing is, I have to tell you, because you live across the street, that's why I
And
say it was
you're
probably
staring me out.
because no, there was not one tree down on your side of the street.
Well, just evacuate. The key is
That's
to
the
just
problem.
No, I'm just saying that that's why it was.
You don't have magical trees.
That's
Her
it.
house was
What we had found was just what we talked about, which is you learn from example, right?
Right.
Social media was terrible. Spartina didn't have it wasn't even like leaves down in the yard.
Right.
Royal Point, you went to your neighborhood, it was absolutely different. So within this small community, there was pockets that were wiped out, and there were pockets that you didn't even know there was a problem with.
That's
So
exactly right.
just
Our
leave
house-
because we couldn't get to your area. I mean,
Oh,
we were
I-
using cart
I
paths
was
to
given
do it.
permission to come home, and I couldn't get on my street. They were still cutting trees down
Yes.
across the road.
For days.
But I do have to say that I was able to get back to Moss Creek. The bridge was closed.
Right.
People sat on 278 for hours because they came trying to get back
Yes.
home on the island.
And that was one reason why, if you talk to a lot of people, they don't want to leave because they feel that they're not going to get back home. We have that evacuation process, we have the reentry process. The reentry process was instituted where we barricaded off the county. Fortunately, and this is where the social media stuff comes in, social media picked it up, and one large network picked it up saying, don't know where they got it from, Beaufort County's open, people come on back, and literally the bosses upstairs are going, no, because they knew what that meant. People at checkpoints were getting really, really upset with the law enforcement there because they wanted to come back home because they were told they could, but it wasn't official. And people were parked on the side of the road, even though they weren't, I mean, they came back too early because they just listened to the wrong information. Listen to that yellow card phone number, listen to a press conference from the sheriff. When they say, come on back, that's when we come on back.
Yeah, the sheriff's office has a Facebook page.
Yeah.
That's a perfect,
I think I was
thing to
told I
listen
could
to.
come back, and I got in without a problem.
Somebody else had
The bridge was closed.
The gentleman last one, the furthest out, that's why it shuts down longer. So, again, case in point, if one part of the community is good to come back, another one's not, they're gonna cut it off, say, if you're on the head, don't come back. But hey, people in Moss Creek are there, come on back.
Yeah. How far do you have to go out?
What do you mean?
If you leave, how far?
We push you to I-20.
I have all that stuff.
Which
And
is
after that-
Columbia.
Did we get
and
that
wherever
stuff?
we want to go. I can't
Yeah.
say it's going to be safe after Columbia because a big storm comes through, there's still going to be winds and stuff, but you're moving away from the storm surge.
Right.
All right, the winds, there's still going to be winds, and they won't be as strong as here on the coast, but that's what you're moving from is the
But
water.
storm surge wise,
No,
once
no,
you're,
no,
once
yeah.
you're there,
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah, it's the winds. I lived in Charleston during Hurricane Hugo. I actually was working on Seabrook Island. I evacuated to Mott's Corner to my sister's house, which is about 45 miles outside of Charleston. It was not far enough for the wind, and it was terrifying.
Right.
And if I had children, which I didn't at that time, but I would never, after that, after living here, I evacuated every time when I had kids and we had to, because it is terrifying to hear trees hit your house and all that wind. And then there was no services, so we had to go bathe in a lake. So you have to go
Well.
west.
Yeah, we're pushing you away
North
from the water.
is not right, go west, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming. We will post this slideshow and we'll link it in the next week at the creek, and we'll either use this Zoom video or the video I have. So if your neighbors missed it, tell them don't worry, we will be posting the presentation and the slideshow. Okay, and thank you guys for coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you.